Hi, my name is Piwo, and today we are going to talk about a functional behavior assessment versus a functional analysis. But before we get to that, let's talk about what constitutes a problem behavior. A problem behavior can be considered as any dangerous behavior such as aggression, property destruction, self-injury, which can harm the client and others around. The questions that we need to ask when it comes to problem behavior, we need to ask if behavior harms the client or others, and we also need to ask if the behavior prevents the client from assessing the full benefits of the environment in school, community, at home, or at work. Example, it may not be a life-altering behavior, but it can alter their progress, such as a child who has to go to school but has no toilet skills training, which can lead to non-acceptance in the school setting. Second example, a child who has to take a bus to school but has out-of-seat behavior that can be dangerous and does not follow verbal instructions from teachers can lead to expulsion from regular school bus. Problem behaviors revolve around looking at the ramifications of behavior in mainstream environments, in being able to work, to live, to attend, and to coexist with others. This also involves being able to answer what are the standards of social behavior that current and future environments have, whether these are written, implied, strict, or lenient, and whether adaptation to these is possible. How do we determine when one should conduct a functional behavior assessment? When behavior is frequent, inappropriate, reoccurring, and can be dangerous from individuals and other people involved. When attempts have been made to reduce the problem behavior and no methods have been successful. For example, Morris is a student that shows aggression towards his peers. He has been put into school suspension. The principal has talked to him numerous times. He has numerous meetings with his parents and teachers, but nothing has been effective. Second example, Sally is a new student and she spends half of the day screaming. She gets taken out of the classroom for timeouts. She gets asked what is the problem. Some days she's responsive, some days she is not responsive. But instead of any changes taking place, she starts to develop maladaptive behavior such as hitting adults, banging her head, and fists during those timeouts. Following such examples, we may wish to examine what is the function of the behavior in all spheres by looking not only at the topography but also developing an operational definition of the behavior that describes what we see, and also taking a quantitative measure of the topography in terms of frequency, duration, or the percent of intervals during which the behavior occurs. We may also wish to know what maintains the behavior, as behavior is maintained by different reasons, from person to person, even if the behavior topography looks the same. We might also wish to know the maintenance of the behavior, whether it could be positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, positive automatic reinforcement, or negative automatic reinforcement. Now I'm going to talk about an FA versus an FBA. Let's start with an FA. Robert Horner in 1994 defined an FA as a technology for identifying the variables that control target behaviors. The value of an FA is that it provides information that improves the effectiveness and efficiency of our clinical interventions for people with problem behaviors. An FA is a strategy for manipulating the student's environment and observing the effect on the student's environment. The changes in the student's behavior can lead to a hypothesis, which can be followed by a replacement behavior. There are four components of an FA: play, alone, demand, and attention. I'm going to give you an example of each one. In an attention condition, every time the target behavior occurs, attention is provided. It could be pleasant attention, like, oh no, what's wrong? Or unpleasant attention, like, stop doing that. And then alone condition, a child is left alone and no consequences for behavior are provided. Modifications to the procedure are made for behavior that is dangerous to self or to others. In a play condition, a child is provided, or an individual is provided with access to all known reinforcers at once, and no demands are placed on them. This is the baseline or the control condition against which all other conditions are measured. The last one is a demand. Every time the target behavior occurs, escape from demand is provided. Most often, it will be a time-limited break, e.g., for example, 15 to 30 seconds. Once results for these four conditions are attained, we'll compare them against each other. From there, we'll create a functional-based intervention based on the four components, and you'll try to generate a replacement behavior that can be used. Now, I'm going to talk about the different types of replacement behaviors that could be used based on the four components. These replacement behaviors and examples that I am talking about are from the functional assessment and program development for problem behavior, or now ETL 2014. For example, let's start with attention. A student that likes to receive attention from peers but gets too close to them when greeting them could evoke negative response from his peers. So the topography of the behavior could be getting too close to his peers. So some potential positive interventions that could be set on the functional behavior is to teach the student to be able to approach others within a safe distance. Example number 2. A student who excessively interrupts class to ask questions that are not related to the instruction in order to get teacher attention could be taught self-management strategies for question asking, and then to self-recruit feedback from the teacher at a later time. Number 3. A student that becomes very aggressive towards others when he doesn't understand teacher directives could be taught how to ask for help when directions are not clear. Number 4. A student who gets very anxious, who sweats, who shakes during physical education classes and causes commotion in the surroundings that they are in before class, so that he is sent to the office, which can be seen as escape behavior, could be taught relaxation techniques in addition to the skills that they're already being taught during a physical education class. Last example. A student who engages in disruptive behavior such as pounding the desk, talking out, making a noise when doing independent work for longer than 5 to 10 minutes in order to escape the task at hand, because usually the teacher will give them a timeout, could be taught to ask for a break appropriately. And when they are given when they're able to appropriately ask for that break, they will be given that break. They will be continued to be provided with breaks, but they'll gradually have to increase the time that they are working. So you can take a break after you work for 10 minutes. You can take a break after you work for 15 minutes. You can take a break after you work for 20 minutes. So you have to have some goals set for that break. Now we're going to talk about the pros and cons of an FA. The pros of an FA is that a clinician is able to manipulate the conditions and has evidence that backs a cause and effect between problem behavior and any behavior that is maintaining it. It has the ability to be flexible. If one does not have time, it's also possible to be able to conduct a brief FA. It might not yield full scope, but there will be some results that can be attained from there. Now we are going to talk about the pros and the cons of an FA. We are going to start with the pros. The first pro is that in an FA, a clinician is able to manipulate conditions and have evidence that backs the cause and effect between problem behavior and behavior that is maintaining it. Secondly, when we talk about ethics, the way that FAs are conducted has the ability to fall into the BCBA ethics code, falling under Code 2.14, which talks about selecting, designing, and implementing behavior change interventions. The code reads as behavior analysts select, they design, and they implement behavior change interventions that are conceptually consistent with behavior principles, are based on scientific evidence, are based on assessment results, prioritize positive reinforcement procedures, and best meet the diverse needs, context, and resources of the client and stakeholders. Behavior analysts also consider relevant factors such as risks, benefits, and side effects, client and stakeholder preference, implementation, efficiency, cost effectiveness, and design and implement behavior change interventions to produce outcomes likely to maintain under naturalistic conditions. They summarize the behavior change intervention procedures in writing, e.g., through a behavior plan. When we look at FAs, we can be guaranteed that they are based on scientific evidence. They are based on the results that come from SA, or the assumptions that can be made based on FAs are based on assumption results. And they also meet the different needs of clients because they don't only focus on what the behavior looks like, but also in the context and in the manipulation that takes place. A third advantage of an FA is that it has a flexibility, such as if there is a time constraint, a brief FA can be applied. The cons of an FA is that it cannot be applied for all behavior, such as self-injurious behavior, which require immediate attention. And in such cases, we wish to move away from wanting to see a behavior maybe happen in a frequency of time, but rather we are more concerned about stopping the behavior. And there's also the possible risk of increase in maladaptive behavior. As I had read in a previous example, that sometimes I think with Sally, when we talked about being taken out in timeouts, instead she began to develop other behaviors. There's also a chance that that can happen in reaction to that. Now I'm going to talk about a functional behavior assessment, an FBA. An FBA is a method that is used to understand the reasons behind why an individual may perform certain behaviors. It's a strategy that can be used in schools, in communities, in centers, or in homes. It also requires, like an FA, it will require a multidisciplinary team from different fields to be able to work together to get the best results out, or rather to get the best data out. An FBA is a useful tool. And there are 4 steps to an FBA. 1, you need to be able to define what is a target behavior. So a clinician will work with a team that will include parents, teachers, other professionals, talk about what is the target behavior that has been chosen. And the behavior that is chosen is usually one that a problem behavior that interferes with optimal development of learning or achievement for the individual. It can be described in a specific and an objective way that can be understandable to everyone, can be seen to everyone that is involved. It may look at target behaviors or problem behaviors such as communication, behaviors that put the child at risk or the individual at risk, such as biting or hitting, behavior that is excessive or behavior that is harmful, behavior that is destructive, such as yelling, or escape motivated behaviors such as running. Okay. Step 2 is to gather and analyze the data or the information. And in this step, this is where most of the work goes in. So you need to look at what happens before and right after the behavior occurs. What are the environmental factors when the behavior occurs? When, where, and how long does the behavior occur? Where does the behavior not occur? How often does the behavior occur? Who is around when the behavior occurs? So it's a full assessment of the behavior. It's a full assessment of the environment. It's a full assessment of the people that are in the of the environment. It's a full assessment of what the behavior looks like. What does the behavior not look like? Okay, and then there are different methods that clinicians can use to gather this information. It can be done indirectly, such as using information from people who are able to observe the individual, such as parents, caregivers, teachers, asking, using questionnaires, using in the interviews, using rating scales, such as how often does John get out of his seat when it's time for him to do a worksheet? How often does it happen? Does it happen in math class? Have you seen it happen in a social studies class? These are all questions that you can ask teachers, can also ask parents at home when he's doing homework at home. How long is he able to keep focus? So you're asking the people around them without necessarily observing the student yet. We can also do descriptive assessments or observational assessments where the clinician or the teacher or a member of the team is going to observe the individual in their natural environment. They're going to watch the individual and they're going to record what happens before, during, and after the target behavior. Or next, step 3 would look at finding the reason for the behavior. So a hypothesis would be set up based on what happens before or after the target behavior, and it has to have a description of the target behavior and also have to look at the function of the behavior. So why does John get out of his seat? Is it because of a demand activity that is placed on him? Is he seeking attention? What other reasons could there be? And step 4, the last part, is to try to come up with a plan. So once everyone in the team has worked together to either take an assessment, to observe, you need to come up with how are we going to prevent the behavior from taking place. That would involve drawing up things like behavior intervention plans, increasing opportunities for students to be able to use replacement behaviors that they have learned, teaching you inappropriate behaviors that they can use, and how to prevent the interfering behavior from happening in the first part. And this also involves tracking their progress, tracking the effectiveness of whatever methods are being used. My current job is a guidance counselor at an international school, but because of this master's that I've been taking over the past year, I've been working very closely with our learning support department at school, and the learning support director is my supervisor for the field experience part of this course. So in that, I've seen that at school we use an FBA over an FA. And there are two main reasons for that. One, because of the time constraints. Two, because of the environment. The environment, there's always students around. There's always students around, and the ratio currently of students to teachers would be there's always usually around a main teacher and teaching assistant. So it would be 2 to around 15 students based on the grade. There are some students who receive push-in support, and there are some from the learning support department. So at a time, there can be two to three more teachers in the classroom, but those teachers are usually are usually there to support specific students. So once a teacher notices a behavior, they will send a referral, whether this is an academic behavior or social behavior. They will send a referral to learning support, And learning support will meet with the teacher to do an indirect assessment, to do an interview, to ask them any questions about what they have seen, when they have seen it. And then someone from learning support department will go into the classroom to observe the behavior, to rate, to get some data on what the teacher has also said. They will go to different sessions, such as in a homeroom setting. They will go to specials, such as in art, in PE. Also depends on when the teacher has noted that the behavior occurs the most or it occurs the least. After that process is done, which will usually take around 2 to 3 days, also depending on school events and what is happening, holidays and what is happening at that time, will take around 2 to 3 days. Once that happens, at the end of the week, someone from learning support who was in the classroom will meet with the teacher and they will present the results that they have seen. After that, a plan will either be made depending on what the need is. So if it's an academic problem, they will either probably get a push in support from the learning support department, or if learning support determines that maybe it is more of an emotional or social emotional behavior that they have noted, they will route it to guidance. If not, another intervention could be if it seems like it's serious and maybe grades are low or there's more reinforcement that needs to happen, an application will take place for probably a one-on-one push-in teacher to be with that student for a certain amount of time based on what the positive influence that they want, the change that they want to happen in the student's behavior or in their capability. In conclusion, there are 3 questions that I would like to ask the people in this course, mainly because I am aware that most people are either in clinics or in home settings, and that's something that I am super curious about. So, question number 1, I wanted to ask, what type of technology do you use in FA and FBA process, if at all? Number 2, what has been the perception and views of parents towards methods taking in an FA and in an FBA? Number 3, what have you found most challenging in both settings? Thank you for listening to my presentation, and I hope it was informative. Looking forward to hearing from everyone. Bye.